So we're in the workshop today looking at the spring change on an OEM Yamaha T7 shock. To do this you need access to a spring changer or a local motorcycle shop. If you're in the UK you can ship your shock to us and we will do it in-house for you. Okay, so we've got our shock into the shock compressor. You'll notice the preload adjuster here is slightly extended, so the first thing you want to do before working on the shock is wind back the preload adjuster, turn it anti-clockwise until that is fully retracted and safe to work on. Okay, so we have our shock loaded into the shock compressor. The next thing to do is actually compress the shock itself and remove the retaining clips that hold the shock and the spring into place. So we're going to just compress this in, and as you can see, as I compress that, it reveals the piston and the two retaining rings in there. Obviously you don't want to put your hands in there to get those out, so the easiest thing is to pick one up like that and one out like that. Once you have that retaining ring out, you can then lower the shock back down into itself, relieving the preload from the spring. Just make sure you take care when you're doing that, and remove it from the shock compressor. Okay, so now we have the spring without any preload. We have our top retaining clip off, which allows us to remove the spring from the shock body. Notice here you have another retaining clip. You don't want to lose that, it's very important. So our shock is now disassembled. We have our lower retaining ring and our upper retaining ring still on the shock. The next job is to put our uprated 95 Nm spring onto the shock. When you get the spring from Rally Ray products, you're going to be provided with two packers. This is the top packer and the bottom packer. They're labelled in the packages when you get them, and these are crucial for the fitment of the spring. So we're going to start off by loading the spring with the text upwards and our top packer, which is the smaller one, onto the shock, and the lower packer over this retaining ring like so. So we're going to add that on next. So before we load the shock into the shock compressor, we're going to take our black packer ring from the lower retaining clip and put that over our spring. Next job is to load it in carefully and secure with a locking bolt. Okay, so now we have the shock in, we're going to compress that up and fit the lower retaining ring, and that will be us finished. So carefully aligning the spring in the shock compressor, and you want to compress it all the way up until you can get the second retaining ring. Okay, so using a small implement you want to lift this retaining ring and insert that one. We have our shock compressed, we have our retaining rings in. The last step is just to feed the shock down back into itself like so, and then we have a completed shock. So we're just going to lower that down and remove it from the shock compressor. So there we have one complete Yamaha T7 shock with an uprated 95 Nm spring on it. So remember, if you're in the UK and you're after one of these uprated springs but you don't want to do it yourself, you can order a spring from us, ship your shock to us, and we'll ship it back as part of the postage for the spring itself.